Good evening, everyone. My name is Jocelyn Wong. I am the Director of Community Engagement here at the Nantucket Historical Association. And as many of you know, we have a special exhibition, Behind the Seams Clothing and Textiles on Nantucket, open right now. It'll be on view until November 2nd. If you have not seen it yet, I warmly invite you to come during normal museum hours to check it out. And because of this exhibition, we have organized this panel, and we are so delighted to have three representatives from three iconic Nantucket brands that are all represented in that exhibition. So that's Murray's Toggery, Erica Wilson, and Nantucket Looms. So today we'll hear a bit about the history of these three brands and how they play a role in the clothing and textile environment on Nantucket. And today they will be moderated by our Chief Curator and Obed Macy Research Chair, Michael Harrison.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. We really appreciate it. We are so excited to finally be able to fix that, Adam. Yeah, we're so excited to finally have our costume and textile exhibition on view. This is the outgrowth of an enormous inventory project we did in 2017 to better understand the clothing and textile items that the NHA holds. You may think that we're mostly about whales and whaling, and when you sit in this room, all the artifacts seem to point towards whaling. Our second largest artifact collection is, in fact, costumes and textiles, representing all kinds of ideas and people from Nantucket's past. But some of that is not from the very distant past. Some of that is from the last 50, 60 years, where really significant things have happened on Nantucket with the craft revival of the 1960s, the sort of retail environment that has developed alongside the summer resort, and the local brands and stores and companies that have supported those things were not previously really strong in our collection, and we've really made an effort over the last 5 or 6 years to improve our representation of those stories in our collection, and they are reflected then in the exhibit upstairs, where there is an entire section about Nantucket brands and an entire section about the craft revival, which involves all of your companies. And then we've brought some show and tell objects today. So if you haven't seen the show upstairs, we're going to whet your appetite, and hopefully you'll go see it. If you have seen it, it's bonus time, and we'll show some more things. But before I turn to talking about a couple of artifacts, I just want to introduce our three panelists who I'm so delighted are here with us this evening. I have Bess Clarke from Nantucket Looms. Bess is the CEO of Nantucket Looms, where she's responsible for overseeing daily operations and business development and strategic growth. She's been with the company since 2013 and has led the company's expansion into e-commerce and interior design, and also has been instrumental in the book that Looms has launched this year, Nantucket Looms, A Legacy of Style, which was published by Rizzoli, which is a lovely title if you haven't seen it yet. We then have Kirstin Bridier from Murray's Toggery. So Kirstin actually used to work here at the NHA, and it was here, or while working here, that she met her husband, Andrew, who is now the 4th generation owner of Murray's. And so that's a great connection. Since then, she has led corporate foundation and government fundraising for the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum and the Museum of Fine Arts Boston, and is currently the executive director of the National Trust for Scotland Foundation USA, which is the American Friends Group for Scotland's largest conservation charity. She's a graduate of Smith College and also a graduate of the Historic Preservation Program at University of Pennsylvania, and spends 6 weeks on Nantucket each summer with many generations of haberdashery folks in the family, working at the family business. That's not the usual summer, but that's fantastic. And then we have Vanessa Diserio from Erica Wilson. Vanessa is actually Erica Wilson's daughter. She worked side by side with her mother until her mother passed in 2011. Over the years, Vanessa has worked to turn the shop into a destination for fashion and for custom designs and collaborations with designers from around the globe. She and her husband, Matt, divide their time between Nantucket and Palm Beach, and have 3 daughters who help a great deal, I understand, with the family business. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about sort of how the 3 companies sort of have fit in with what the NHA has been doing, and then I'm going to turn to each of you to say a little bit about the company and the brand and sort of your own relationship with it. And then I'm hoping to turn this into a sort of a general conversation about retailing and legacy on Nantucket, or wherever we want to sort of take the conversation. So I'm a curator. I love artifacts. I love telling stories with artifacts. And as I mentioned in our exhibition, we wanted to talk about aspects of the summer resort that are reflected through what people wear and what's produced to sell to people to wear on Nantucket. And some of that has developed alongside a really significant craft revival that started on Nantucket, usually talked about from the 1960s on, but there are threads of it that go back to the 1920s, with craft weaving that was done here and textile production that was done here in the 1920s and 30s. And then leading up to the founding, actually, of the looms, in the 60s, and then that continues today. But, for example, we have in our collection Erica Wilson needlepoint pillow. This is still a design that you can buy at the shop. You can buy the canvas. Yes. I assume you can buy the entire kit. And so this is actually one stitched by Erica Wilson herself and given to us by Erica a number of years ago. And it's actually, I pulled this out of the exhibit today in order to be able to show it. And it's really quite nice, the sort of references to, I mean, as I'm hoping you'll say, Erica's career spanned quite broadly and was very national and even international, but then this sort of grounding on Nantucket and designing things that are referential to here is a really important part of that story, and that we're delighted to have in our collection. As far as Murray's, I think the color matches quite nicely there. These still have the tags on them, and actually were a gift of Murray's in 2005 for another exhibition that we did here. We actually have 3 Nantucket Reds items in our collection. These Bermuda shorts were the first ones that we got, and then subsequently a supporter of the NHA gave us her faded Nantucket trousers, so a women's pair of trousers. And then last year, or 2 years ago, we did a show about the history of the summer resort, and we did a number of dressed figures, sort of representing summer people on Main Street, and we needed a men's pair of trousers, and we got those. Those were a donation, along with one of the embroidered belts. That's fantastic with the skyline. It sort of matches the pillow, actually. So we have those. We also have, from the pandemic, a Nantucket Reds face mask, which I particularly like, and I always show when I do collections tours. So if you want to see more of these, they're up in the show. And then, as I mentioned, the history of looms has been something we've really been trying to collect more of. It's so important here on island. All of the companies are important, but in terms of this like coming together of craft traditions that were sort of already going on Nantucket, but then practitioners coming here and trying new things and sort of expanding ideas about, well, if we have historic buildings on Nantucket and we're renovating them, shouldn't we renovate them with historic textiles, and how do we get those textiles? And the history of the early history of the looms is bound up with those kinds of craft ideas. And we've been very fortunate to be able to collect early textiles and clothing and dye samples and all kinds of things from the family of Mary Ann Beinecke and from Andy Oates. And so we have some of that, a lot of that is featured in the exhibition upstairs, but I wanted to bring an additional piece that is not featured upstairs, which is this length of yardage. So this is a patchwork yardage, and all of these textiles were things woven at the looms in the early to mid-60s. And then we believe that they were put together, and this was actually sold as yardage to work with to make garments. And it really shows beautifully sort of the variety of creative weaving styles and colors and the creativity going on, the colorways that were in use. I'm particularly delighted that in the show upstairs, we're able to show an Andy Oates woven throw from the 70s alongside a throw from today, both of which are at the highest quality of weaving, and then the colorways of them, of course, have changed over time. So I feel we're very fortunate to have pieces like this in our collection to show off and to talk about. And so I wanted to show people this because it didn't fit in the exhibition. And then I've asked each of our panelists to bring a few things of their own, which they will talk about in turn. We'll make sure that doesn't roll off the table. But needless to say, collecting around this, exhibiting these topics, having this as part of the museum's collection, alongside the more obvious stories of whaling and such, has been really important to us. And so once again, I'm delighted to have the three of you here. Bess, I'm wondering if you would mind starting and just sort of talking a bit about your relationship with Looms.
Of course, yeah. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My relationship to the Looms started much earlier than 2013, because I was actually literally born into the business. My mom came to the island with my dad in 1969 and applied for a job at the Looms in 1974 for what was to be one season in Famous Last Words, and she was there for over 40 years. So I have grown up in the business. I was at the Athenaeum for 10 years and then joined the business in 2013 and came in to really oversee the growth of the business in terms of the e-commerce. And really, my mom, Liz, I know many of you here might know her, Liz Winship. She's a legend, and you can find her at the thrift shop on Saturday mornings. She's wonderful. She's a wonderful oral historian, and she would know not only the artisans and our clients so well, and over the course of 40 years, she formed these wonderful relationships, and she was able to really tell everyone the history of the business and all about the artists. But when she started to phase out of the business, that was getting lost. And so I really felt that it was important to tell all those stories and put them into print and translate it to the website. So I've spent the past 10 years developing the website and really taking the history of the island and the looms and telling, in conveying it in the products we produce. And each product, has a story to tell, whether it be something that was woven or if it's a craft that's made by an artisan. It's what connects people to the island. And so that's really where I've found a lot of purpose and joy in adding to the business. And of course, you're all welcome to come see the weaving at 51 Main Street. We're open 7 days a week, 10 to 5.
And you should go upstairs. I'm not sure everybody realizes that they can go upstairs.
We're production hand weavers. That was always our claim to fame. We started, our history goes back to the early 60s with Marianne Beinecke and Andy Oates working together to reproduce the archival fabrics for, reproduction fabrics for the Jared Coffin House. And after that project concluded, they opened Nantucket Looms in 1968. And they kept the hand weaving portion of the business. And that's what's alive today, is the weaving studio. And we still are producing on the same models of looms, the Maycumber looms, using all natural fibers. And Andy was especially known for his really simple designs. And depending on the decade, color palettes change, but we're in a phase that we're much more muted as opposed to the 70s and 80s. So yeah, no, we're very proud that we employ 5 year-round weavers. 2 women work from home doing piecework, so they'll wind their warp with us, and then they'll carry it out and bring it home. And then once they're done weaving 6 to 12 pieces at a time, they'll come in, cut it off, and they'll finish the blankets. So it's been the same tradition. This is our 57th year.
Incredible.
Thanks.
So Kirstin.
Can you hear me? Great. Hi, everyone. As Michael said, I'm Kirstin Bridier. I am not born into the Murray's family. I married into it about 20 years ago. I met my husband as a customer. I was buying a pair of Nantucket Reds for my brother at Christmas stroll, and the rest is history. But because my interest is Nantucket history, it's been just such a pleasure for me to learn over the past 2 decades about my family and their connection to Nantucket history through Murray's Toggery and the color Nantucket Red. In a lot of ways, the family story, the business story, is the story of the island. So we're celebrating our 80th anniversary this summer. And as Michael mentioned, my husband, his brother, and their 2 cousins are the 4th generation owners of Murray's Toggery. They took over in 2020. And we have some of the 5th generation working at the store in the summers, so you'll see them if you come in. When we say we're celebrating our 80th anniversary, we're talking about 1945, when Philip Murray purchased the clothing store he was managing. It was called City Clothing Store. It's where the Murray's men's department is now. And it sold workmen's clothes, outerwear, hunting gear, fishing gear, and red working trousers for working out on the ocean. Philip Murray called it the Toggery Shop. He wanted to be open year-round. He wanted to serve the community of Nantucket. The story I love about Philip is actually about his father. His father was a stowaway from the Azores. He came to Nantucket on a ship that landed in New Bedford. He was 12 years old. He took the name of the ship's captain, which was John Murray. And he ended up in Nantucket and became a prominent part of the Nantucket Portuguese community. And so it was his son, whose last name was really Santos, who started Murray's Toggery. Philip Murray's son was Philip Chase Murray. I'm going to call him Grandpa for the purposes of tonight, because that's how I knew him, and there are a lot of Phillips in this story. Grandpa was born on Nantucket. He, I think, quite an adventure. He went off to Oberlin in Ohio for college, and he told me about his huge steamer trunk and taking the boat to New Bedford and then the train out to the middle of the country. He also served in World War II, and when he returned to Nantucket home in 1951, he brought with him a wife, Elizabeth, from Virginia, and his toddler daughter, Patricia, who's my mother-in-law, Trish, who's here tonight. She is the one who can answer all your questions about the store. Grandpa started working at the store in 1951. His father put him to work sweeping the sidewalk in the front of the store. He loved it. He did it every day while he worked there for decades. He was very gregarious. He chatted with everyone. He passed the time of day with everyone. And he really transformed the store. He bought the Louis Coffin dry goods store next door, which became the Murray's women's department. He finished the basement. He put on a second floor, an elevator. He wanted to put in a hair salon. He had like vision for this department store. But what he's really known for is branding Nantucket Reds, and that's really what it is a branding exercise. So he called them Nantucket Reds Guaranteed to Fade. Basically, taking a perceived deficiency of the cloth and turning it into a status symbol. So Breton Reds had been used by sailors in the north of France for many, many years. In Brittany, they tan their sails with tree bark to prevent mildew and rot. It turns this brick red color, which when it's exposed to sea and salt water and sun, fades to a dusty pink. Then they'd cut the sails up and turn them into pants. With stowaways like John Murray coming over, this fashion in the fishing industry, became very common here in New England on the coastline. And so they were working men's pants at first and sailors' pants. And what Grandpa saw was this opportunity to turn the color into a symbol of being on the island for many years, being out on the water for many years, having the leisure time to go sailing in the summer. And now it's become sort of a pilgrimage to come to Murray's to get your piece of Nantucket Red to bring home. It's fun to be off island and spot someone wearing Nantucket Reds. It's sort of an in joke with them or an in conversation with them. Grandpa's children, two of his three children, my mother-in-law Trish and John Murray, who's also here tonight, took over officially in 2000, although they had worked at the store forever before that. One of the things that they did was they started a new brand called M-Crest, which focuses on Made in America products. They also helped launch a lot of preppy clothing brand careers like Vineyard Vines. My father-in-law, Gilles, who many of you may know, Trish met him on her junior year abroad in Paris. He followed her back to Nantucket, and although he was trained as an engineer, it turned out he was an amazing salesman, just like his father-in-law. So he was one of the managers of the store for many years. And then in 2020, right before COVID, and those Murray's masks, Andrew, Matthew, Lauren, and Greg took over, and they share their ancestors' commitment to being open year-round, to community service through board leadership and volunteering, participating in exhibitions like the one here today. And I'm just really proud to be here representing the family and the brand.
Thank you. That's great.
Wow,
Vanessa.
that's going to be hard to follow. You guys are both amazing. Thank you all for being here. I'm Vanessa Diserio. My mother was Erica Wilson Kagan. She married my father after meeting him in New York. She was born in the United Kingdom in a little town and moved to London and attended the Royal School of Needlework, where she worked on coronation gowns in England and was discovered by the Embroiderers Guild of Millbrook, New York, where they were taking classes from her, and they asked her to come back to America and teach at the Guild. And that's how she ended up back here, met my father, and they think they came on their second date, Marilee might know, to Nantucket, second or third. It was an early weekend. Fell in love with Nantucket, rented a house, and all that time, during that time, she was in New York and traveling and writing books on needlework and teaching, and she opened up a little store for people to be able to get their needlework supplies on Nantucket in the library of the house. So she would put a sign on the door and go to the beach and close the door and say, sorry, I'm at the beach. And people would come in and maybe write down their name. Oh, I took some yarn, and leave their name. And she'd charge them at the end of the summer, maybe. I don't know. And eventually, I think she felt like she wanted to serve the community in a bigger way, and the space on Main Street became available. So she took the space on Main Street, and we started selling her needlework there. Soon, about 10 years after, we've been in business. She's been in business, I think the business started 62 years ago. The shop on Nantucket is probably about 58 years. I tried to get that information before this. I don't have the exact date, but she took over the space next door, which was the Nantucket Dry Goods store. I don't know if anyone remembers it. It sold like, I don't know, shot glasses and towels, and it was a dark little store. And so it was great when that became available, because she could expand from just the needlework into things that were handmade, because she loved to have anything that was sort of handmade and interesting, that she was touched by. And that was part of where it started expanding out of the needlework into the clothing that we do today. So for years, she would have people come to the island every summer and do seminars with them. It would be couples that would come, the whole family would come, and the ladies would sit around in the backyard and learn how to stitch, and the husbands would go off with my father and drive in the antique car or take a boat ride, go for a sail. And we would have clam bakes at the end of the day out at Sankaty, and it was really great fun. And so I actually brought one of the needleworks that she taught in the seminar, and This one's been hanging in the house for a long time, so it's very faded, like our Nantucket Reds. She would use these large swaths of color that then she could do textures and different stitches in. So now people just tend to do simple basket weave, needlepoint, but she really liked doing all the different stitches on the needlepoint canvas. So that is an example of that. And she taught needlework also on WGBH. She had a television series, came on every, I think it was Sunday afternoon. And these were an example of some pants she decided to make in the 60s. So really fun use of Indian shisha work, I think it was. We think we need to bring these back. These definitely need to be redone, so keep an eye next summer. And just a third example of some of the work she would do here. We also, my father's family had home in Switzerland, and in Switzerland they do something called Scherenschnitt, and this was her interpretation of that cut work, that's paper cut work, but it's all stitches, black work stitches, so that one's worth coming to see up close. In any case, her commitment to the island, I think, really was really deep. I think when she started doing the stitching with the Jared Coffin House, she just felt like she wanted to give the community something to do in the off season. A lot of people come in the summer, but there was a big community off season, and she felt like she needed to have the store available so that people would have supplies to be able to do needlework or do the crewel embroidery or quilting. And so that was really important for her, and we feel very, very strongly that that's super important for us to carry on. We keep the shop open year-round so that everybody can come all year and get whatever supplies they need. Our stitch group, Mary, you know, people are stitching Thursday night all year round in the store. Big groups of people. Sometimes we have 14, 15, 16 people in the middle of January. You know, it's been really great. And all different ages and abilities. So that's been really fun to watch as that's developed. Even more so now after COVID, people picked it up again. So the needlework element really it just keeps going, and it's important to who we are and our DNA of the brand.
Oh, that's incredible.
So, yeah.
What makes me wonder about, for all of you, many decades of being open and being here, and obviously you can't just stay as one thing during all that time and have success. There has to be change that comes along with it. But I'd be curious to get impressions on, like, what do you change and what do you not change in order to survive and thrive in a sort of strange retail environment such as Nantucket has, that is so seasonal, that is so boom and maybe bust, but just different kinds of people are here and different volumes, and how do you calibrate over time what you're doing to be able to do that? It's kind of an open-ended question, but I'd love to hear if you have thoughts on that.
Well, I also want to give credit to my two business partners who are not here today. Becky Pariners, our master weaver, who oversees the weaving studio, and she's been with the business for 30 years. And Stephanie Hall's our lead buyer and interior designer, and she's been with the business for 29 years. So there's a real legacy of people committed to Nantucket Looms. I just wanted to say that. For us, our weaving obviously has remained the same in terms of our products, or I should say the quality of the products, and we've expanded to include other products, mostly in the apparel side of things. But as far as a business, we've expanded really into the interior design side of the business, and that, if purely from a cash flow perspective, is really helped us sustain ourselves in the winter months when the retail side is really quiet. And we're really proud. I think one of the values of our business is to employ people year round. That was the main tenet of what Bill and Andy founded the business upon. And so we've been doing that, and we've been offering full insurance benefits, 401k, all the plans. But we need money to do that. So the the interior design has helped provide a new form of cash flow that wasn't always there. And it's just, it's a natural transition for us because we're obviously, home furnishings and textiles. So that was just a natural progression for us.
Interesting, yeah.
I think at Murray's, the nature of retail is very cyclical. There are brands that started at Murray's that now have their own stores on Nantucket, like Lily Pulitzer and J. McLaughlin and Vineyard Vines, and so we're always looking for new brands to fill in those gaps. I think in terms of buying, we try and be really conscious of summer visitors versus year-rounders. We do want to be a store that year-round residents can count on, but so much retail has moved online, and we do have an online presence now as well. And lastly, I would just say about Nantucket Reds, I feel like every year you read in the fall fashion magazines, like, Preppy's back this year. And whether people are wearing it ironically or wearing it seriously, we've tried to collaborate with younger brands like Rowing Blazers, Tucker Knock, which is what this dress is from, Tree Torn, to try and update the color a little for a new generation.
I think that in order to keep our, we feel also very strongly about keeping our employees employed year round. We employ kids from the high school. We are always people's first job, and that's always like wonderful to me because then they come back 10, 15 years later and you're like, oh my God. And they're great people. We are so lucky to have had Heidi, our manager, working for us since 1988, full-time, year-round. And now Dee is our other manager, also came out of high school, worked with us, and has been with us for countless years. And I feel like in order to do that, we had to expand into the online arena. We were really lucky to do that before COVID so that we were in place. It's developed even more since that. And now my daughter, who is 26 years old and very much in touch with like all the social media and the marketing, is able to help me and take over that. So she manages the whole online business, which has made a huge difference in our ability to stay open year round, because without that, I think, it would be a challenge with how much everything costs to be, running a business out here in the winter.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me think about even just sort of the literal retail landscape of walking down Main Street or, walking around town in the off season. There's just so many businesses that are just closed, or even when they're open, are they for everybody here? Are they for year round or not? And when the hardware store closed, that was a major change in town. And going back even further, there used to be, other grocery stores on Main Street and all kinds of things. The dry goods store, it was a holdover from when there had been numerous dry goods stores there and on Center Street. So it's sort of interesting, how do you, being part of that and a stable part of that.
I do feel that it's so important to this Nantucket community to stay open year round. And I know my block, it's very easy because we have Murray's Liquor. That is easy to stay open year round. And then the coffee in the morning, that works well too. And then we have the needlepoint in between. So our little block is really committed to not being a ghost town in the winter. And this is, dear to my heart. And I really appreciate all the other businesses that do make that effort. And I feel like if there were more that were doing it, more people would even come out. It's wonderful here in February, March. I love coming when we're here, so.
Often when new businesses open and they seem, people, perceive them as kind of a threat to our business, like competition. I think the complete opposite. We want more businesses downtown. I want competition because it gives people an excuse to come down. So it's hard when, I was really in a panic when we thought the pharmacy was going to close, because we've got insurance on one side and, a bank on the other, and it was like, well, I don't, in the pharmacy was such a flagship of downtown. So fortunately it's still there.
Yeah, no, exactly. And you guys have been very stable location for a very long time.
Yeah, for a very long time. But I think what you're doing with the stitching on Thursdays is so genius because it gives people an excuse to come in, and it's sort of a way to build community and gives people an excuse to come downtown.
And to get out of the house, you know, it's dark at 4, you know, get out and do something and see people. It is really great. I love that.
Are there aspects of your businesses that you know that your predecessors did, or that your mother did, for instance, that you aren't able to do anymore, that you would like to be able to bring back, or you're like, oh, thank goodness we don't do that anymore?
I have a request. I remember the loom in the front of the looms, and as a child growing up, watching them looming in the front window, and always being like, oh, I want to learn how to do that. I want to do that. And there was like a do not touch sign on it, but it's always
We get
tempting.
the request for classes all the time, but it's just not in our business model to expand into education.
Not yet. Maybe at the Boys and Girls Club. Good.
Maybe at the NHA.
I'll just speak to that. So I'm wearing a CPO jacket, and for those of you who don't know, it's our hand-woven wool tweed, and then it's lined with Liberty of London cotton lining. And a woman by the name of Leah Marks produced these for close to 50 years, and we estimate that she could have made up to 20,000 of them in her lifetime, because at one stage she was making one a day. And she was known for just unbelievable hand stitching, and compared to like an Armani suit, and she was really, really such a remarkable person. And when she passed, we felt we wanted to honor her, her memory by not rushing into production. We thought we could never reproduce them, and I'm not going to say that they're exactly the same, but they're pretty close, and we did find someone on the Cape who makes them now for us. And so that was something that we had to stop selling for a number of years, and just by the, good luck, we found someone, and so we're now back in production. And, it's a wearable piece of art, and people keep them for generations and pass them on, so that's a really big, important part of our legacy.
Yeah, Leah Marks was quite the talent. She actually provided a fair amount of research assistance to Jennifer Nealing, our guest curator, and our textile specialist who worked on our textile inventory a few years ago, and was always like, oh, I made one of these. She would like bring out, things that she had made, or, would tell stories about all kinds of different things.
She used the same pattern. Like, it was just so thin. It was tissue thin. It was the same pattern she just kept using for all those years. It's amazing.
Yeah. We're fortunate to have one of the CPO jackets in the collection in this amazing yellow color, again, from a past colorway, perhaps, with the Liberty fabric on the inside. It's really, really great. It's in the exhibition, so please go take a look. But yeah, no, because it's an interesting question of how to sort of, do you feel burdened by being a legacy on Nantucket? Is there some, say no. It's a privileged position, I would think.
Yeah, I don't feel a burden at all, but it's in order to keep up, you do have to be creative all the time. I think you have to keep thinking ahead. We're always constantly trying to think of something that's authentic to Nantucket, but fresh and new, and do something in a new way. And partnering, like you said, as well, with lots of different members of our brands, bringing in, the sneaker company, and they come and do their shoelaces, and like fun activities that bring people in the store that sort of make it an interesting event for the community to come enjoy. I think that becomes important for us to do.
Yeah, I would just say, as sort of someone who married into the family, it's been really interesting for me to see how family is family and business is business within the family. And we're in the 4th generation now, with the 5th generation, 11 children in that generation, ranging from literally less than a week old to 16 years old. And to see like who's going to want to take this over, it's not a burden, but it's a privilege, and I think it's something the family takes extremely seriously. But as a mom, you don't want to say like, you need to do this for your career, right? So the kids, the next generation, they all start in the same way, sweeping the sidewalks, taking out the garbage, cleaning the windows. It's not the fun like buying clothes or dressing mannequins, so that they really get a sense of the seriousness of the business and the important role that it plays in the community. And I think that idea of board service too ties into that, like how are we giving back to our community? And it's a real privilege to be in that position.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Vanessa, it occurs to me, your father was a very prominent furniture designer with his own creative enterprise,
Totally.
separate from your mother's very different enterprise.
Yeah.
Was there ever any overlap in terms of the store between his activities and her activities?
Very few times did they overlap because his furniture was all very contemporary and her needlework was more traditional based. But there are a few occasions where she stitched a beautiful piece of fabric and he upholstered his chairs with them. So we have a couple of those pieces around, and they are very special because it just didn't happen that often. They were very collaborative and supportive of each other and their creativity, and she would try to design a chair for him and he'd say, no, that's terrible. He didn't like it. And he didn't even try to do much of the needlework, I don't think. But
Yeah, that's funny.
yeah.
Did she ever do any of the, like, run the till or,
She was in the
manage?
shop a lot, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. And she was teaching all the time. She would teach all the children in the backyard every summer. We would have classes all summer long, and she'd be there teaching. She never had time to teach me. I was taught by whoever the assistant was that summer. And there was just always yarn all over the dining table. We never could eat in the dining room because it had yarn and patterns and drawing paper and fabric and all over the place. She was always designing, teaching, and then writing books, really busy, and then raised 3 children. It was quite amazing, and an amazing grandmother with my children. And I'm, as you said, like so lucky to have them be interested in the business, and it was not something that I pushed them to do either. They came to it themselves, which I think is a better way. But boy, am I so grateful. It's just great because now I feel like there is a legacy and it can continue on because, otherwise it's very difficult to figure out how to keep a business like this going.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Bess, you said that you're sort of, because of your mother's connection to that, did you ever feel pressured to take part in this, or it just came very
No,
naturally?
I didn't. I didn't feel pressured, but I saw the opportunity to tell the story of the business on a broader platform, and that was taking the business online, and then through the book that was published this year by Rizzoli and written by Linda Holden. And it just, I felt like it was just a really, it was really important to share Bill and Andy's story, Mary Ann's story, and all the artisans in the book. We profile 13 artisans, as well as showcase a bunch of homes that we've designed, and really the understanding of who we are as a business and why we choose the products that we do and how it relates back to the island. And that's what makes it different than buying your furniture at Pottery Barn, or right. I mean, it's like, and there's an emotional connection to what we produce, and we want to honor that. We want to, celebrate the craftsmanship of the community and try to sustain that, because the way it works with our artwork, we have our artisans come to the store between 9 and 10 every morning with their wares, and if we'll see if it's a good fit for the store, and we'll try it and put it on consignment, and then when we sell it, they get a check. And so for me, if we can elevate those artists online and through our book, then it's lending to a more sustainable economy for the island, and that's really how I feel like I can give back, and to encourage the next generation of artisans, because I feel like that's our greatest risk right now, is to have people understand and want to carry on those heritage crafts. I mean, you guys do a wonderful job with your workshops, but I think it also has to start at a younger age. And we've started a scholarship at the Looms, and it's awarded to a graduate of Nantucket who's pursuing an education in the arts or interior design. And it's not that it's going to pay for their tuition by any means, but it's a way to let them know that there is a living to be made and to encourage that. So that's really important as a graduate of the high school myself.
Yeah. Well, I've been really struck during various projects here at the NHA, just where all three of your companies intersect with various threads, if you'll forget the pun, of things that we have otherwise. So the artisans that you mentioned, somebody like Mark Sutherland, the model builder who's done carvings and models and all kinds of things for your business. Like many of these artisans show up in other ways because they're parts of the community here. Same thing with the weavers, who show up in different ways with projects we have. Certainly the building premises that you guys inhabit turn up in all kinds of things in our archives. But also Philip Murray was instrumental in getting our Tony Sarg collections here, because he's the one who bought from, worked with Mary Sarg Murphy to collect her collection of Tony Sarg's illustrations that she still had personally, and then he donated them all to the NHA. So really, if you saw our show last year, the Murray's name was really important to that because the core of our Tony Sarg collection really comes through his efforts, which was quite incredible. And then we've relied on you a number of times when we need things of the right color for public programs and for exhibitions. And the Sea Monster trousers from last year, the enormous ones, were really a hit, and we've been glad to see them come back again for other things. And then actually not quite related to Erica Wilson, but to Vladimir Kagan, one of his final furniture designs was actually inspired by taking a class at our 1800 House Decorative Arts program, where he made a boat model with Mark Sutherland, and then was really interested in the process of how certain kinds of boat models are made, and then was inspired to design a sofa that was based on that. So I love those connections.
Love that.
But I think the real takeaway for me is just this sort of desire to continue to be a living part of the community. And in some ways, there are multiple communities on Nantucket, as we're all aware, year-round, seasonal. They overlap and they feed each other. And so the ability to sort of be a part of both and serve and feed both is actually really valuable and is a real asset, and I think it says a lot about how you've each been able to be on the scene here for as long as you have, and hopefully for much, much longer still. I wanted to open it up for questions, but I know that you brought a few items, and I would love for us to show people what you brought. Do you want me to bring things over and you can talk about them? I will start with this scarf.
Yeah, you probably know the history better than I do.
This is one of the tillet pieces?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want me to
Sure.
do the pocket version?
Yeah.
As Bess mentioned, the looms start with this effort to create historic style hand-woven items, you had a better phrase for it, for the Jared Coffin House. And so Marianne Beinecke and Andy Oates led all the weaving effort for that, and then had all this weaving apparatus set up and basically founded a business. I'm simplifying this. But for a time in the mid-'60s, the business was owned by Leslie and Dee Dee Tillett, textile designers from New York, who were known for screen printing of textiles and doing a lot of experimental screen printing. And so they sort of added a lot to, they added to the weaving all of this printing and creative printing. And there's a lot of scarves in particular, but all kinds of fabric yardage and various things. So this is one of their designs, and I have seen this one before because I think you showed it to us when we were there. Which this is a whale boat with all of its equipment. So if we disgorged everything from the boat back here, you'd be able to identify it from this, except for the bomb lance. We don't keep any bomb lances on hand right here. But so they were really inspired. The Tillets were really inspired by a lot of things on Nantucket. So this, the whale boat, there is a fabric that we have on exhibit upstairs that is uses 3 scrimshawed teeth from our collection and reproduces them. I know that there was a design that used the oldest house silhouette. I've seen shingles.
So Schumacher Fabrics took over, bought Tillet recently.
Yeah.
And they have come out with, Schumacher's come out with reproducing some of the original Tillet fabrics. And we've made them into pillows that are for sale at the Looms. So not these designs, but some of the more iconic designs like the scrimshaw teeth and
Yeah.
the shingles and the old maps of the island. So they're really cool. It's nice to see them in contemporary furnishings. And then this is the very dark
I love this one.
fabric or scarf that's titled "The Celebration of Mass" on the back of a whale. So, it's
They did a lot of work with historic prints, like where they would take, 16th or 17th century woodblock or engraved prints and see how they worked as scarves or as fabric. So I've seen a variety of different whaling patterns, all sorts of, and sometimes it's not always clear how much went into production versus what was just tried in different ways. We have some of these, we don't have this one in our collection, but we have
you
some
can
of
pass
these
it
things.
around.
Are you sure?
Sure.
Start over here with you, Fran.
And then this is a skirt that I don't know why anyone would want to wear it, but it's so heavy. It was woven by Marianne Beinecke, and it was one of her designs in, I think, around the mid-'60s. And it's just really heavy. You can pass it around as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's really
And
fantastic.
really, I mean, I guess it would keep you really warm.
So we have in our collection a hostess skirt, which is basically the same profile as this, maybe the same, where it's a woven mohair, and people wore them in the summer. They would buy them and wear them. Really stylish, but almost as heavy as this.
Yeah, you can pass it, and you can pass that around as well.
Oh, okay, great. Here, Fran, you'll get to start again. It's like a
had
table
some.
runner.
She definitely had some.
Here, we'll start this one at the other side of the room. Nobody wander off with these. So we would love if there were questions for the panelists, and we have a microphone, and we're going to ask you to use the microphone because it helps with the recording. But we'll start here in the middle. Jocelyn, or
Probably not a fully formed
Here,
question,
here.
but you'll get the gist of it. With 3 iconic brands and the Instagram nation of the branding of Nantucket, have you ever thought about what that could mean for your brands in Palm Beach or, other parts? I guess, I was just thinking about your conversation regarding how to continue to monetize and run your business with brand recognition and the continued elevation of the Nantucket brand and yours. Have you thought about something like that?
I mean, I think it's more important than ever to really stand by our brand values and to not exploit them. And I think it's really easy to do. I mean, we've established a really strict guidelines on what we post and how we post and the language and how we want to be portrayed, because we've come this far after 57 years and you just don't want to blow it after one post. I mean, it's just, the stakes are so high because it can go viral, and you just want to make sure that you're really staying true to who we are as a brand. So there are plenty of opportunities, and we do our research to make sure that they're a good fit for us, but really aware of being careful of how we are perceived on social.
I would agree with that. Just, it's so important, social media today. I personally hate it and try not to look at it, but thankfully I have a 26-year-old and 30-year-olds, and they know what to be looking for. But I agree that we're trying to be super careful about how we're portrayed and what is important to us, and make sure that is clear, that messaging is clear in whatever we post.
And I just want to say that I think our brands are authentic. It's an authentic side of Nantucket that maybe people are finding that more difficult to see. And so we embrace the simplicity of the island, the natural beauty of the island, the people that make this island special, and that's what we try to represent online. And that's, that's harder to find these days.
I would just agree that part of what makes these brands so special is that they come from this special place and they're only found in this special place. So when we partner, we want to do that in an authentic way, really thoughtfully and strategically. But I can't imagine, I'm not speaking on behalf of my husband or his family, but I can't imagine us opening a Murray's, New York, or, like that's just not, what we're about.
Oh, hang on a second. Let's bring the microphone over to make sure that right behind you here.
Is it on? I think what's so special is that you maintain the quality. Like ultimately, that's the most important part of your product, rather than mass-produced numbers. They become more valuable too in that. But I'm not native here, but I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Here, we'll bring a microphone over.
My question is probably for Vanessa mostly. There has been a national resurgence of the grandmother arts we've heard and read about. And as someone who's been needlepointing my whole life, I guess I'm just ahead of the curve, clearly. But I am curious to see if you are seeing that in your business. I mean, obviously, Erica Wilson has always had a steady needlepoint business, but have you seen a real surge in needlepoint?
Absolutely, absolutely. There has been an amazing resurgence, and it's all these young girls, and they are doing different designs than what my mother would have done. Like, there's none of this. It's all very simple, little small things that you can complete quickly because everyone needs to do things and get it done fast. It's wonderful to see. I think this group have embraced it because they want to put their telephones down. I hear this all the time. It's the perfect opportunity to they can put the phone down. They can't look at the phone while they're doing it. They're stitching with groups of friends. They're enjoying having something that they're making at the end, that they can give away or keep. It has become a little crazy on social media around the needlework, I will say. I mean, yeah, that piece is a little odd, but it is fun to see. And even, I don't know, my daughter's 26, she's stitching away like crazy. I mean, she obviously knew how to stitch from her grandmother, but it was not something that she would have thought to do, I don't know, as a 16-year-old, but now they're all coming in and doing it. So it's been fun.
This is for Vanessa. What do you know about how your mother designed the sconset kneelers, the kneelers in the chapel?
I'm happy to help with that one. We did it together with the ladies in Sconset. So we did it over a period of years. I think took like 5 or 6 years. I should have done my homework on that. And we decided to do it in like doing all the fauna one year, and we'd do the birds the following year. And I spoke with somebody who was like the ghost stitcher for people who took on all these projects. They'd take them on and then couldn't finish them, and so they had these people in the background that were really quick stitchers and were able to finish it up for everyone. But it came out so beautifully, and we worked really closely with Sheila Dalmy. She really oversaw the whole thing for us, and we'd pick the colors together. We had a fabulous artist that we worked with. It was one artist that did all the canvases. He was a Chinese man who had been trained in painting in China and was living in New York at the time. And so we would bring him our designs. My mother would sketch, and we would then bring the designs, get them on the canvas. I'd help with all the colors, bring the colors to figure out where they go. And it was a really fun project to be on. Love it. And I'm hoping that one of my daughters gets married out there so we get to be there with the kneelers.
That's great. Are there any other questions? All right. Well, I want to say a big thank you to all three of you for agreeing to talk tonight and having such a great conversation. And I want to extend the NHA's thanks also for your continued support of our exhibition projects, of our research projects, of our collecting, all the different ways that you guys have interfaced with the NHA over time. We really deeply appreciate it and appreciate your time this evening.
Thank you. And I just want to. It means so much that you were able to highlight our brands and make them remind people how they're still relevant. And we really appreciate the NHA for shining that light. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, we get so many people taking pictures and sending them to us like, oh, this is so exciting to see you here, you know. So we thank you.
No, absolutely. As I said, we are about a lot more than just whaling, and we really want to talk more fully about all of that. And when we recognize that there are places that we should highlight, we want to do that. And so this has been a great opportunity for that.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Guys, thank you.